So, Ian, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about your company?
Absolutely. So LKQ, we are a terrific story founded 25 years ago. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary. We were born out of the waste management family, where there was a kind of an innovator entrepreneur, Mr. Flynn out of Chicago here, who saw an opportunity in using salvage vehicles as a commodity and also as a sustainable product. Being able to take an end-of-life vehicle, analyze what can be used, reused out of that vehicle, what can be put back into a marketplace? Can we dismantle that vehicle, sell some of its parts to, let's say the right side has been totaled. Well, the left side of that vehicle is still usable. Somebody else, their left side has been damaged, and they could use some new parts, taken off of a donor vehicle. So that's where a business kind of came about, and consolidating all these other businesses that had been in existence around the country, and placing efficiencies in those, and creating a better business for the consumer. So, stronger pricing model, quicker deliveries, more efficiencies, higher quality. And then what cannot be used, or let's say, I hate to use what cannot be used, everything. The great thing about Mr. Flynn, everything could be used. Let's say damage beyond repair. Well, that can be turned into scrap. And what can go into light posts, guardrails, other infrastructure, all the liquids. When a vehicle is in a collision and deemed a total loss and towed off the road, well, it's still full of liquids. What can be cleaned, placed back into the marketplace, and reused? And then over the years, LKQ has grown into different product lines, into specialty equipment. So whether or not you own a ranch and you need to take your pickup truck and outfit it with maybe a little stronger suspension, maybe some heavy duty bumpers, a winch, etc. Whether your emergency vehicles, you need ropes, ladders, etc. We LKQ Specialty Division, which is known as Keystone, has you covered. Whether wheels and tire packages, etc. And then also on new aftermarket parts. So as you're repairing your vehicle, we can supply you with new, whether it be OEM or third party. We can do that as well. And not really from, as we were talking about, bumper to bumper, one of our new larger acquisitions, we've got you covered from paint and then certain interior products, all things. If something goes wrong with your vehicle, LKQ's got you covered. And we've become what we know is a global leader in parts distribution in the automotive world. And we've expanded into other segments, marine, recreation vehicles, and the like. We've taken what we've learned. Also, what I love about the company, one of the country's largest fleets. We take pride in our ability to provide our customers with on-demand deliveries for the most part, which leads to quicker turnaround times and repairs and maintenance. Keeping the driver, the owner of that car on the road is really important. There are families that rely upon services behind the scenes that they don't realize. If you've got that single mom with 3 children, she's got to get to her job. She's got to get the kids to school, to practice, etc. She needs her vehicle. And if something goes wrong, that turnaround time is incredibly important. And the same with work fleets and work trucks. Whether that landscaper who owns 5 trucks in their fleet, if one goes down, that's a job that they're missing out on in a day. And being able to turn around any repairs is very important. And then lastly, what I believe is began 25 years ago is sustainability. A lot of people talk about, what which direction is the world going in environmentally? Well, we're the world's largest automotive recycler, recycling close to 1 million vehicles per year, ensuring that end of life to a vehicle doesn't mean end of life. There's a secondary life for all those parts, and we take pride in being able to find a home for those. And we've got a 50,000 person employee base around the world that I believe takes great pride in what they do and what they deliver to their customers, what they do for their communities, what they do for their environment. And that makes us one of the world's largest families. And it's really, really important that we've got that culture from the top down and bottom up. And everybody, Justin Jude, our new CEO, loves to use the phrase, bleed blue. And I think that's absolutely true for all 50,000 employees.
That's such a key thing. Having that passion and that culture in any industry, I think is important, but understanding, that the messaging comes top down, bottom up, such a wonderful thing to hear about any organization these days. So tell us a little bit about your role within the organization.
Well, being here at Club Colors, as we discussed, I like to wear many hats. Your new, your next podcast programming title, right? Wearing many hats. I got my start at LKQ working in the public policy space. We are in the automotive world. Automobiles, transportation, one of the more highly regulated industries where we sell industrial products. I mentioned our fleets. Shipping is incredibly important. Global economy, sustainability is very important to us. Public policy and which way policy sways, which way governments decide businesses should operate. Government loves to stick their finger in all kinds of things, and that includes the way that businesses operate, whether it is in a particular region, nationally or globally. It is just what they do. And so it's important that companies have a program and able to understand the direction that governments change. So which way are they going to shape public policy? How does your business fit? And are there ways in which you can work with those governments that best allow you to do business in those areas, whether it be municipalities, states, countries, or whole regions. So thankfully, LKQ invested in a department like this, and I'm grateful that they gave me the opportunity to head up this department. So that's kind of my primary goal. And then a lot of what we do is messaging outward, working with media and communications on the impacts that certain policies can have on the business, on the industry, on customers, on consumers. So we have kind of begun to gain a stronger voice. And we believe it's also important for not only the consuming public, and elected officials to understand what we're doing, but folks within our industry, folks within our business. And so we've grown that outreach and that voice louder. It's very important that people know what we do because we do great things, and we want folks to understand that. So that's another role that I've got. And then beyond that, I'm incredibly grateful. LKQ, as I mentioned, we operate in North America. We deliver to almost every single community. Europe is growing, but we touch multiple corners around the globe, and we like to give back to the communities in which we work. We believe we are a fabric of those individual communities, and with the forethought of our newly retired CEO, we created a large foundation, the LKQ Foundation, and that is a mechanism in which we can give back to the communities in which we operate. And it's very important, I believe, for our employees to be a part of that. And it's important for our communities to know that we're also there for them. And so I've been lucky enough to be a part of that foundation and the operational board of that. And I take that very seriously and really enjoy the return that that gives me, both emotionally and also as a company. Being able to engage in our communities at that level is such a terrific thing.
I love that. I think the foundation is such a important part of what you said. It goes back to the core values of what LKQ started from and giving back to the community in that. So I love hearing that. As you speak to external affairs and the public policy arena there, going back to not only a global approach, but also, the U.S. approach, the foundation that you spoke of, what do you see? What have been some projects that have come out of that most recently that you all have been involved in?
Well, it kind of bifurcating the two, talking about public policy and the foundation in separate terms. Number one, when you look at public policy and step back 5 years ago when I came on, and one of the things that the leadership at LKQ wanted to expand upon was our what they believe was a public policy agenda on the federal level. Well, you've got to go back, take a couple steps back, and take a look at what do elected officials know? What are they working on? Who are they going to listen to? It's Congress is charged with a great responsibility, and all of the areas in which they legislate are vast, and not all of them, and we'll stay out of politics and not get too deep, but not all of them have experience in every industry, in every side of every business. And so really what somebody like myself, what my job is to educate. And so you want to educate that elected official or policymaker on the business that you're involved in. You want to educate them on the company that you're representing. And so the very first thing that you want them to walk away with is an impression of who you are, who your company is, what your industry does, and then moving down, mature those thoughts. And when they're actually writing policy or about to make a good decision or even formulating an idea, you want them to think, well, I am not the expert in this. Let me reach out to that expert. And hopefully what pops into their brain is LKQ.
Right.
If it is anything, I mentioned our large employee population. Are they working on some sort of employment policy? Are they working, in the automotive industry? We are at a huge deficit in workforce training. We need to be graduating more technicians from automotive schools at a faster rate. We need, what I would kind of state as Germany has a wonderful apprenticeship program for aspiring manufacturing jobs and technical jobs in the automotive space. Maybe the U.S. needs to begin to look at things like that. But either way, LKQ takes it upon itself a burden to participate in those activity from a policy level and an education level. We use the foundation for that. So we want folks to think of, if I'm looking at a workforce training program, maybe I should reach out to LKQ. Maybe they've got some insight here. Are we writing what makes sense? And then similarly, from a parts perspective, a lot of automotive parts, highly regulated. Are they making decisions on what allows us to sell parts, what allows us to ensure safety and without compromising safety and quality? So we want to be part of those discussions as well. And then we are a global business. We are one of the largest trade operators and suppliers in the world. We move product around the world daily, millions of SKUs daily. Governments working with one another on trade issues and tariff issues, are being spoken a lot about in today's world. We want to ensure that those aren't overly penalizing without sacrificing the intent of the policy. So involving yourself in those discussions is important, but it goes back to the brand. Are you a trusted brand? Are you a trusted voice for the industry? And I take very seriously, and my team does, all of our colleagues, is can we build that trust? Not only, we've done a terrific job over the last 25 years, our sales teams and our leadership within our industry from a sales perspective. But, when it comes to a policy perspective, we're still very new to many, many people. And there's a lot of changeover. November is going to see a lot of change. And on all sides of every aisle and at all levels of the government. And so we've got to go in and we start our education process anew every couple of years, or every year in some cases.
So how do you build that trust? As in, have you been in the automotive industry for a long time, or how does your current role compare to what you've done in the past?
I take what I've learned in the past, both from it being in the automotive world now for 15 years, but being in the public policy space for 25 years, but also every day, in every aspect of your life. Being transparent is incredibly important. Being honest and transparent to your partners, that builds trust. And so we had an issue. Actually, I was working late last night because we had been negotiating on a policy issue with some legislators in a particular jurisdiction, and they were ready to support some of our ideas. But they wanted to make sure if they supported them, would we be bought into what they were doing? And we had a long conversation with my colleagues in our department, and we decided we've got to move forward because they're supporting us. We've got to support them. And we've been transparent up to this point. If we turn our backs, we've got to work with these folks, for decades to come. If you turn your back now, your name is mud. So it's really important to stay true to yourself. Be honest with your customers. Be honest with the folks that you're working with. Be transparent. And I believe that you'll be able to achieve. You might not achieve your goal tomorrow, but in the long term, it makes it a little bit easier. That's when I think, don't be afraid to tell somebody you don't like something. You don't have, I think that's a way that you all can maybe take a step back and create something new, and maybe you find a better direction.
Mm-hmm. I think transparency is so huge. I mean, in our industry and even in our personal lives with different programs you might be involved in, people just want to be informed. And while you may not always agree or they don't appreciate the decision, having the information and hearing your perspective is so huge. And it goes such a long way in that education and building, because they always know while they may not agree with you, they're going to come back to you because they're going to get information.
Well, and I think that information leads to a lot of collaboration. You can both have different ideas, but like you said, be open and honest with it. And in the end, you probably can find a way to collaborate together somehow and make that work.
Well, what I love, it's funny. One of my favorite words to hear is no, because that allows you. Because if you could look at it singularly and say that's a closed door, or you can look at it and say, great, well, you just opened up 15 different doors.
Right.
So we know we're not going to go through door number 1, but 2, 3, 4, 5, those options are still open. Let's go through those now. We've checked one off the list. And so when I work with with folks that are making decisions on policy, I don't mind hearing the word no, but no, I also interpret it as maybe.
I think of no as the starting point. If we hear no, or if we have to say no, because we have to make some decisions that's in the best interest of all the parties, and sometimes no is the right answer in that moment. But again, that's just our starting point. Where do we go now?
Right. And I tell your kids this all the time when they ask for something and you say, can I get dessert? Absolutely not. Well, I usually say, well, do you have any other ice creams off the table? But, maybe some strawberries with a little, dollop of yogurt. At the end of the day, they don't know the difference.
Right.